Hello and welcome to Ticket Manager's All Access Interview Series, engaging leaders from across the sports marketing spectrum to identify and explore critical issues in the business of sports, entertainment, sponsorship, activation, ticketing, hospitality, and yes, even more than that. I'm your host, Jim Andrews. Joining me on this episode is Stephen Fuld, Senior Vice President of Marketing for Sony Corporation of America. Stephen is responsible for all marketing activities with key focus areas that include brand strategy and communications, marketing technology, and loyalty program management. And it's that program, Sony Rewards, that is going to be the primary subject of our conversation today. Welcome, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
So I want to start off with, a company as large and diverse as Sony. It's probably a good idea to just begin with a reminder for everyone who's watching and listening about all of the different companies, businesses, product lines that kind of make up the Sony empire, if I can call it that. So could you just briefly walk us through that?
I think we're more benevolent than an empire, but I will endeavor to answer your question.
Thank you.
So Sony is a company based in Tokyo. We're a little more than 75 years old. I think we are known traditionally as an electronics company with strong capabilities in consumer electronics, but also B2B. But what many people don't realize is that Sony is a much broader company than just an electronics company. We are a full-fledged entertainment company with Sony Pictures, Sony Music, and PlayStation. In aggregate, the three of those businesses are north of 60% of our overall business. We operate in throughout the world, just about everywhere. And when you think about the individual businesses like Sony, like PlayStation, who everybody knows PlayStation and the PlayStation 5 and all of the amazing games that come out, Sony Music is the number one music publisher and has many artists from Michael Jackson to Beyonce to Adele to Harry Styles. And Sony Pictures has more than 3,500 movies that they've created over the years, 275 different TV series, and has 12 Best Picture Academy Awards. And more currently, we are responsible for the Spider-Man movies, just released Uncharted, which is an amazing collaboration between PlayStation and Sony Pictures. And we really think of ourselves much more than an old school electronics company, as much as important as that business is and as technologically evolved as that business is. We really think of ourselves as a creative entertainment company with a solid foundation of technology. And that's really our brand identity and what we try to seek for people to understand.
So that's obvious a lot. I'm sure it keeps you busy. It also means you've got, I'm sure, a very diverse audience that you're marketing different properties and products to. And so that kind of takes us back to, as I mentioned in the introduction, the loyalty program. And I know there's some new developments that are happening there, but let's start off then talking about Sony Rewards. If you could just give us a little bit of the background and history there, and then we'll talk about what's going on today.
Sure. So the background and history is Sony Rewards is a entertainment-focused loyalty program. The history is it had been a redemption program on a co-branded credit card. So we've had a Sony-branded credit card in the U.S. market, which is where Sony Rewards is domiciled. And we've also had Sony cards actually in other markets around the world. But in the U.S. market is where the loyalty program Sony Rewards is. Once again, it used to be originally a redemption program for a credit card. But we reimagined that about 7 or 8, or actually 9 or 10 years ago, if I'm dating myself here, into something that was much bigger, something that really connects the dots between the different businesses, that gives consumers who are already operating and buying and getting services from respective companies to essentially get rewarded for all of the things that they do across Sony. And while we have very independent businesses that are driving their own activities, as the consumers move back and forth across, we've thought that there was a way to reward them for that type of behavior.
We're all familiar with loyalty programs, right? Either as marketers or more to the point as members. We all belong to a few at least. You've got extensive experience with them, not only at Sony. So I'd love to just have you share some of the specific value that a program like Sony Rewards delivers? What does it really achieve for the business, for the company? And then, kind of building off of that, tell us a little bit about what's going on in that space today. Any changes or trends that are happening in loyalty?
So let's start with sort of some quantitative answers to your question in terms of what do companies get from a loyalty program. So at the end of the day, all companies are seeking out sort of their most loyal and most valued customers. And a loyalty program is a series of mechanics at the end of the day to achieve those goals. Well-run loyalty programs have 77% of the consumers that are if you're in the top two boxes in terms of performance on a loyalty program, are going to do more business with that company. 63% will actually change their buying behavior to maximize their points. And I'll use a hotel example. Who of us that are not part of a hotel program haven't reserved a hotel or driven across to the other side of town to go to that hotel versus a different one, or an airline or a retailer or a brand like Sony? So people definitely spend to maximize their points. 64% actually will get up and change brands if they're not happy with the program. For those people that are engaged with whichever of those categories of programs before, people will actually change their mind and go to a different brand. Qualitatively, in terms of what are we trying to achieve with the consumers, as we bring our different operating companies, or opcos, if you would, together, what we're trying to do is have Sony Rewards serve as an extension of the brand and a connector across both the technology side with Sony Electronics as well as the entertainment side. Okay. So we try to create digital experiences that really tap into those members' passions for movies or games or music and technology. And we enable to have a two-way dialogue with that consumer about what's relevant to them. And ultimately, our goal is to keep Sony as top of mind to them. We want to be relevant and we want to stay relevant. And we think the way to do that is not to think about an individual business, but think broadly, more broadly about Sony. In terms of your question with respect to changes that are underway, I think that the like every business, like every human being on the planet, right? The tremendous change during the pandemic. We saw a shift in loyalty where customers tried new brands. Many of them tried brands that they had never tried before, and everybody did everything much more digitally than before, out of necessity.
Forced to, yeah.
In loyalty, we've seen a shift from sort of the transactional, with the way people a lot of times thought about loyalty programs before, what's my earn and what's my burn, to really much more about elements of community and empowerment that really shone through during the pandemic. And I think that will continue it and last. It's important to stay relevant to these consumers because they're your loyalists, but they also expect the most from you. They're the ones that are going to hold you to task to be sort of the best version of you that they can be. Right. And at the end of the day, I think that's why those people that are involved in the loyalty business love it so much, because we're held to task to deliver amazing experiences.
So I want to talk about kind of what's next for Sony Rewards, and part of that is I know that the audience, there's a target audience for this program, and well, I shouldn't. I'll let you tell me what that is.
Please tell me what it is. I'd like to know.
I only know because I've talked to you earlier, and I think the primary target is the younger adults, younger than me anyway.
Yeah. So the what we're really trying to do is, once again, appeal. I don't want to try to bring in a different customer set that's not relevant to the respective operating companies. We want to get somebody that loves Sony and engages with Sony. So we spend a lot of time thinking about and understanding through data who actually is buying, who is engaging, who is going to the movies, who are playing the games, who's buying the electronics. And by doing that, we really get a sense of who our design target is. So it's much more than just the demographics. Yes, demographics, of course, are incredibly important, but we're really looking at behavioral characteristics as well that sort of focuses in on our design target. And the positioning of the Sony Rewards program is really to be the best entertainment rewards program out there. And so if you marry up that demographic of that high-end consumer, high-end meaning frequent consumer of Sony products and services and content, with the other side, which is, the people that are sort of the most sort of digitally savvy and these real entertainment enthusiasts, that really becomes our design target. And as we further think about what do they want, they have a lot of activities and experiences within Sony, but they also have experiences outside. And one of the things that we've thought about is how can we extend beyond just the family of Sony companies and find relevant places outside that we can have amazing and engaging experiences for our members. So we put together a third-party roadmap. We hired a team to help us sort of develop and execute on this. And we've begun to partner with relevant companies that share the same passion for the consumer, but also extend our ability to utilize the rewards program outside of Sony, but still with that target consumer set.
And I think that's the exciting news for most of the listeners to this podcast is that a lot of the new things that you're doing, or a big chunk of it anyway, has to do with an expansion into the live event space, which is where most of us are kind of making our living these days. So can you talk about that aspect of
Sure.
Getting into live events?
Sure. So once again, a totally natural extension of what we're doing and of the lives of those that design target that we're going after and that part of the program. We know it because we have 8 million members already today within the Sony Rewards program, and we study what they do inside and outside of Sony. And one of the things that we did is really the live event space was sort of a natural first step outside of the world of Sony for us, and we knew we needed a partner to enable that to happen. Did a lot of work looking around and seeing who would have the best ability to leverage into that space and get us capabilities that we just didn't have on our own, and really didn't want to spend the time and resource to try to copycat what's the sort of best practices out there. So after our analysis, pretty thorough and longstanding analysis, we selected Ticket Manager, really because of their, once again, their experience, their aggregator capabilities, and frankly, the fact that they work with multiple sort of first-tier loyalty programs like American Express and Verizon and Anheuser-Busch. And, we didn't just go forward because, they're working with these great companies, so they must be good. We really vetted them very closely and feel that they have the capabilities to deliver for us and ultimately for our members.
Well, that's great to hear. And, I think that's, again, the live events folks, whether they're working for sports teams or concert promoters, I really appreciate the recognition that, that those 8 million folks are their customers as well. And there should be some, kind of a great marriage there. You mentioned in that earlier conversation that we had that, the whole idea of loyalty kind of looks easy, give people rewards and they'll reward you back with loyalty, but it's actually very difficult. And I think you actually said to me that a majority of brands kind of fail at it. Why do you think that is? And what are some of those keys to making sure that you don't fail?
Yeah, I think there's a number of statistics out there, but I think that 70% of brands that launch loyalty programs within 5 years, or maybe if it's within 3 years, fail. I think you have to put the consumer at the center. You have to understand what the experience they have with your brand is and what you need to do to extend that. I think a lot of brands approach it as we want people to do X instead of thinking about understanding the customer and say the people want to do Y. How can we facilitate that? And obviously, it's not the people want to do one thing. There's a lot of personalization and a lot of different pathways. So it's certainly not a one size fits all scenario. So what we've done is really try to understand the consumer expectations and make sure that we build the experiences. We have a platform, we have the marketing functions, and ultimately we have the data to deliver those experiences to people. and also to, with a lot of refinement to measure the effectiveness of what we're doing, to learn quickly when things aren't working, and to course correct, because we make mistakes all the time. And if we're not making mistakes, we're either not trying hard enough, or we're not looking at what not looking what we're actually doing. It's a marketing discipline. Loyalty is essentially a marketing discipline that needs to be performed with a very clear sense of the consumer, a very clear sense of where they want to go, and to figure out the most effective and efficient way to get them there. And, as I said a few minutes ago, the digital experiences and delivering personalized digital experiences is really, it's just the ticket to the dance now. A couple of years ago, we could say, oh, we've got personalized digital experiences. Aren't we, the cool kids? And aren't we, doing sort of best in class? Not really. Not anymore. You got to keep on moving, keep on innovating.
Just as my kind of final question to you, I could ask you a ton of things, but again, with the folks that are listening here, a lot of them working with sponsors, selling sponsorship, helping sponsors to activate their partnerships, helping companies that have tickets, premium seats, and incorporating those into loyalty programs. You mentioned some of those big companies that have the kind of the sponsorship aspect, and then tie in their loyalty programs. For those folks, what advice would you have from the brand side and somebody who's overseeing a loyalty program as to how they can really best support their corporate partners and sponsors who want to kind of include loyalty programs in the activations that they're doing around teams or events?
Okay, so from their perspective, what do they need to do? So I feel like I'm going a little bit outside of my area of expertise, but I'll with that caveat, I'm happy to answer the question.
Appreciate it.
I do want to say one thing about the last question, one answer, which is, we were talking about changes and what things work and what things don't work. I neglected to think about our whole third-party roadmap and just share that with you. I know I mentioned the roadmap.
Right.
But one of the things that we think about in the criteria is also selecting partners that they have that expertise in that space that we don't have. Mm-hmm. And once again, and this is not a plug for, this is not just a plug for Ticket Manager, but we really thought that they taught us, and we're just launching the program now. I hope a year from now, I'll come back and say, see, we did an amazing thing. But they really brought with them, best practices for the integration and how we should be set up for success. So we're thrilled about that, and we're moving and that's why that's moving forward. Getting back to the question now, where I'm providing advice to people that I'm not sure I should be providing advice to, but doesn't stop me with my children every day. It's really it's the fundamentals, right? It's what I talked about with respect to how you make sure you run an effective loyalty program. So know your customers and what their expectations are. So what are you really trying to do with your promotional programs? I think working with the loyalty programs, the sports and entertainment sponsors, they really need, and the companies that support them, you really need to make sure that there's a basic alignment of audiences and the business's objectives. And if you can sit down and sort of get in front of the whiteboard and make sure that you're super clear. It's like, who are we talking about from an audience perspective, and exactly what are we trying to achieve? It's also important to think about as much fun and as great as a good promotional experience can be. I have 8 million members, and we have to think about them not just for what's that big event that's coming up that we're going to have people go to, or series of events, of course, that we have people to go to. So we think long-term, promotional things are amazing, but we need to do it in a way that fits in sort of with a longer-term experience, and it's not just kind of a one-and-done thing. I think to the extent that the promotional partners can think about where are the gaps and shortcomings that we have in our program, and we're very open and understand what they are, or hope we understand what they are, the ways that they can fill those gaps with, showing our members. Every rewards program wants to share more ways for people to earn, more ways for them to redeem, more ways to get status and recognition. access to everyday entertainment. Those are the things, the last one, particularly for an entertainment program, obviously, those are the things that if we can do that with a partner where it makes sense for them and makes sense for us, I mean, we do that all day long.
Right.
So, I think, once again, the most important thing is audience and objectives. If you can sit down and understand the audience and objectives, everything else should ultimately work out.
And I would think part of that is understanding their own audience, right? And having their own data and insights that they can share with you to say, here's what we think would work.
Absolutely. Yeah. If it was taken that I was referring just to our audience, no, it's the audiences and how they overlap. And yeah, I completely agree with that, for sure.
Well, Stephen, I can't thank you enough for taking the time, and I certainly wish you all the best with the rollout and kind of the expansion of Sony Rewards and the live event space. And as you said, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it, and maybe a year from now we'll do a recap and say let's see how it did and look at all the fantastic results that you got.
Fantastic, great. Thank you
for
the time,
Stephen.
Appreciate the opportunity.
And on behalf of everyone at Ticket Manager, thank all of you for watching and listening. And please join us again for the next episode in the All Access interview series.